is in honor of them as well.
I think they want us to look back and not forget, and to bring what they had and bring forward that strength, that endurance, that forgiveness, that love.
The Beskinik of Choctaw folklore told the people of the good news across the land.
We continue our tradition
of spreading faith, family, and culture.
Chata athihaya tikba mahayaka, iwakaya cha, anopa achukmaho, ilishtafama.
As our Choctaw people move into the future,
we rise and meet them with the good news.
This is Beskinik.
Among the Choctaw Tushkas of World War I, 19 members were part of the Code Talkers, also known as the Telephone Warriors. The story of the Code Talkers begins in the heat of battle when Germany was winning. The opposition forces had successfully developed a way to decode all transmitted messages, making countermeasures virtually impossible. To fight the enemy, it was vitally important to develop a new way to code messages. Brave Choctaw men were recruited to transmit messages and devise a system of communication using our language. They created code words to translate back enemy moves. The tide of battle shifted in less than 72 hours because the Germans could not decipher our language. The Code Talkers were instrumental in winning many key battles, developing a code within a code of an impenetrable language.
There was a pilot program that started here in Durant to 5 area local high schools to just see what it would be like to offer Choctaw language through the interactive TV. And so it was a success. So from there, they started picking up schools, 10, 15, 20, which has gotten us up to about 45 schools. We were unique in that we were the only school in Oklahoma offering Choctaw language as a credit. And see, that was part of the law back in 1992, and some years forward, they began to say that you can take native language as a foreign language. Of course, we know we're not the foreign language, but you can take credit in high school, and you can also take it at the college level. So that had already been established just some years previous. That's why it was a green light for us to go ahead and go into the school systems. The main objective of the language program is to encourage and involve as many learners as we possibly can to learn the language, and at the same time knowing that people need resources and they need materials, that fluent speakers are not always going to be here to provide that instant answer for so many things. And so we're leaving it behind, we're creating curriculum, we're creating textbooks, we're just finding different avenues and ways that we can leave it behind, even in using technology. The biggest challenge is that we cannot stay caught up with the loss of our fluent speakers, that every week we have 2 or 3 that die that are speakers. Those are things you cannot recover. So we know that even though with what we're leaving behind, even with the knowledge that we're passing on, there's still a deeper level, so much deeper levels of communication and understanding probably are not going to be recovered. So that is a challenge, and it is scary, and it is sad because we don't want to see that, but even though people are learning, it's not at a very fast rate, at the rate that we're losing it faster.
It is important to know our history and where we come from so that we can better understand our culture and traditions. Joseph Oklahomby was considered one of Oklahoma's greatest warriors. He crossed trenches under mortar fire into no man's land numerous times to assist the wounded and to bring messages back about the enemy. Victor Brown, Albert Billy, Tobias Frazier, and James Edwards, and many more were also members of the telephone operators during World War I. These heroes brought strength in a time of adversity.
My mother couldn't speak English. She only spoke the Choctaw language, so when she asked her to sign something, she just signed it without knowing. And what she didn't know was that she was signing for myself and my sister to go to a boarding school at Wheelock Academy. I lived there all year round sometimes. They didn't allow us to go home in summertime or Christmas. It just depended on if the superintendent thought it was okay for us to go, it was fine. If not, we stayed there the whole summer. And those were very lonely times because some of the children, other children got to come home and I didn't. We weren't allowed to speak or we weren't allowed to sing our hymns. We did anyway. Many of us spoke to each other and we sung when they couldn't hear. If you were caught singing or speaking, you got a spanking for it. I believe that's why I'm so adamant, because when you're told that, you cannot do these things, and when they tell you you're not Indian anymore, that you're in a white man's world, your identity to be lost is deep. Even as a child, I used to wonder, well, what's wrong with being Indian? I love being Indian, and what's wrong with it? And to a child, and to someone else that might not mean that much, but I wanted to preserve it, nourish it, cherish it, and I'm very adamant in my teaching because of it. When we found out that we were about to lose our language, then some of the elders just decided we'll do something. So that's why I'm teaching. We'll teach it, and we'll sing our hymns, and we'll talk our language, we'll teach our language. That's why I believe that they see the enthusiasm we have now, because we finally realize that we're losing it. We don't want this generation to lose. It's so very important that we keep our language. I think that there would be one thing. We've lost culture, we've lost everything else.
The Choctaw language was a formidable weapon of war. Back home, it was a time of cultural assimilation. Our people were being punished for speaking their language, while overseas, it was being used to communicate enemy moves. Even though they were seen as outsiders, Choctaws remained brave in the face of danger, graciously sharing our language in a time of need.
Choctaw kids knowing their Choctaw language just lets them be aware of who they really are and gives them a foundation to build on as they go out into the world. There are so many people here that are older that have carried on these traditions and kept them for us. But now it's time for the kids to really have that time where they take hold of it, and just show it to all the world. And I'm very fortunate to be here at Broken Bow. Our club has just a mix of kids. Of course, you have kids that are really strong in academics, strong in athletics, strong in art. But then we also have those kids who want to be strong in the culture and language. And with this, it gives us a chance to all mingle, figure out what we do best, and to help push this all forward.
How it was back then, where we couldn't speak in our language, and now we actually get an opportunity to start doing it. I want to take full approach on that and just keep it going. The efforts, I think, that can help preserve it more is by continuing what we're still doing today, holding powwows, holding different cultural stuff all around the world, and sharing more of our language around.
Where would we be without language, without communication? Every day we are losing speakers. In 1966, Tobias Frazier admitted he thought the language would be dead in the not too distant future. This year marks the 100th anniversary of that code talker legacy. Over the years, we have kept the language alive, but we must continue to teach, learn, and invest in our future.
Well, it's become very important, and it was something that I really didn't know much about growing up. I only knew it.
Well, halito, everybody. Hey, can you hear me out there? Hey, here we go. Halito. Chukma. Hey, have y'all had a good weekend? Hey, have you had a good weekend? Man, we got a little rain coming in, sort of cooling it off. It feels great. So I'm just so glad to be here, so glad each and every one of you are here. And at this time, it's my pleasure to get to introduce to you a guy that's world-renowned, and he's Choctaw. World-renowned author, storyteller, Tim Tingle. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Before I say the first few words I was intending to open with, I need to say I love you, Mama. She passed on about a year and a half ago, and every time I'm introduced with something like the world-renowned whatever, you know, if my mother were here, which I know she is, she'd be rolling her eyes back and she'd be saying, "Don't believe a word of it. He wrote that speech and told him what to say." Now wait, that's my mother saying it. You're supposed to laugh uproariously. That was her joke. Mom, I'm sorry, they don't get it. All right. My mom was Chickasaw, my dad, Choctaw. And what I want to say today, to begin with, Chattahapia Hoke! We are Choctaw. We are Choctaw. And some people might say that's a proud way of saying we are Choctaw, and we are proud to be Choctaw, but we are not proud in a way of looking down at other people. We reach and help others, for that's the Choctaw way. My dad had a way of waking his little kids up, and we slept triple bunk bed. My little brother slept on a cot. There were 4 of us little boys all in the same room in a house my dad had actually helped build. And my dad would come in sometimes, and before the sun come up, and he'd go, who can tell me what animal that would be if you were walking through the woods? Yes. Squirrel, exactly. That. Give him a big round of applause. Yes. Yeah, did my dad come in the last night and tell you that? My dad was an amazing man. He used to take us hunting out in East Texas. My brothers and I, and sometimes his brothers would go along, and we would always have squirrel for breakfast. And we never heard a gun shoot, never knew how he got the squirrel. And then after my dad died, my Uncle Kenneth, big old Uncle Kenneth, was a great Choctaw storyteller. He used to go up every 3 months to that old health center in Tallahena, and I'd usually go with him, and he'd tell me stories there and after, and we'd sit outside in his pickup truck way after dark, and he'd just tell me about, and he said, "Son, remember them breakfasts?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You ever hear your dad go?" I said, "Yeah, from the time I was an infant." He said, "How do you think he brought them squirrels up for breakfast?" Your dad would step out long before the sun came up, out in the woods, and he'd lean up against a tree and he'd go, and when the squirrels would come, he'd grab them. And that would end up being our breakfast. That's how my dad would squirrel hunt. There was an old family Bible that my dad gave to us, and I ended up getting it after his death. It was a big, thick, old family Bible. And I gave it to my son because he'd been one of the pallbearers at my dad's funeral. And my son was moving from one college dorm to the next, so he put it in a little storage space down the hill from our house. And then the flood came. A flood came. I live close to the Guadalupe River, a long ways from here. And a flood came, and it was washing 1 million gallons a second over the dam back behind my house. I could see from helicopter views on TV stations where I lived and how close the water was rising. And one night, while I'm sound asleep, and I'm the only one that stayed at home, everyone else had gone, I'm sound asleep, and I smelled this cigar smell, very distinct cigar smell, and I knew it had to be the cigar that my dad used to smoke. No one else smoked those kind of cigars. And I sat up in bed, and I smelled the smoke, but my dad had died. And I got up, and I thought he's warning me. The house is about to be flooded and washed away. And so I ran downstairs, and I got a flashlight, and I looked out, and the water was already to the tops of trees downhill. But there was something big and rectangular that was kind of twirling, and it wasn't getting washed away like everything else was. And I thought, how strange that is. And I went back and I set the alarm every 30 minutes so I'd get up and make sure that the house wasn't about to get washed away. And then finally, when the sun came up and I got up and I went and looked for that strange rectangular thing spinning in the treetops in the flood, it had gone uphill in the wash and was stuck in a stone flower bed of the next door neighbors a little bit uphill from us, it was that family Bible of my dad's. When everything else washed away, the family Bible is still there, and I still have it. I still have it. And some of you may know I write books, and I wrote a book called House of Purple Cedar, and it was based on a tragedy that happened on New Year's Eve, 1896 in Scullyville. Scully, money town, big town. Until the railroad announced it was stopping in Scullyville on its way west. And non-Indian people wanted it in their little town of Spiro. So they began burning things down and threatening Choctaws. And finally, on New Year's Eve, 1896, they burned down New Hope Academy for Girls. And 20 little girls lost their lives. And the Choctaws said, "We're going, then you can have it." And now, almost nothing is in Scullyville but 3 enormous cemeteries. Our Choctaw National Cemetery is there. But when I go there now, and I do several times a year, just to catch the feeling and say the prayers and let the girls know we remember them and walk across the graves, I now can smile and nod. Because when I wrote about that in the book, the preacher the next morning had to give a sermon about it, which means I have to write a sermon. I've never written a sermon in my life. I have to write a sermon for the first time in my life. So I took the family Bible out and I set it on the back deck, out in the open, but it's roofed over. I went in to get my coffee and I came back out and the wind had blown the Bible open. And at first I thought, okay, and then I thought, wait a second. Read where it is. And the astounding thing was the Bible was blown open to exactly the phrase I needed to start, the perfect scripture for this sermon. It was after Moses was leading the people across the desert and many were beginning to lose faith, and the Lord sent serpents to attack those. And then he told Moses that if they will return to their faith, he will pull the serpents away and heal those wounded if they will restore their faith. And this was the perfect sermon. And in the book, the preacher, whom I named Reverend Bob to honor our own, he reads that scripture and he sets the Bible aside and he looks out at everyone and he says, there are troubles in our lives. The serpents are among us. But we must never lose our faith in the goodness of the Lord. If you keep your faith, the serpents will be gone and joy will return. We all have troubles in our lives. Collectively and privately, we have troubles in our lives. But I believe it. If we keep our faith in the goodness of God, the serpents will be gone and joy will return. Chipisalachi. I will see you in the future. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, what do y'all think about Mr. Tim Tingle? Let's give him another round of applause. Always a great joy and great wisdom, and just really enjoy hearing him. Well, now at this time, I have the pleasure to get to introduce to you some folks that's been doing some gospel singing for a long, long time. Hopefully that don't tell off on their age. Bubba Johnson's still looking young, though. I think Moses looks a little younger. But he said they are the one, the only, the Johnsons. Let's bring them up.
Thank you. Thank you. Baby.
Haba pinchi toka kaya o ilinko stinichi ipimaha chipolaka iho hanklo polashki hatak yosho babia pinchi sasa chokmaka ilinoki lahin lacho ano filiki bisa yosho babi ikahocha ayo polo kafina ichokoa hose hona pino anglo tokogi hatak yosho babia pinchi sasa chokmaka ilinoki lahin lacho ano filiki bisa. Shalom Isho Lito Hama Ishmi Tipo Lacha Hatak Ilba Shapi Yaha Ishmi Yopa Lashki Picho Okay, well, we're glad to be here this morning, and this is Bubba on the end, and this is Jennifer, and my name is Moses, and we make up the Johnsons, and we're going to do a finally translated this into and together, so we're going to Chiho Wacho no Ashki Athi Kami Chais Okli Etho Hon Lito Y'all sing with us. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun. We've known less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Hey, what do y'all think about the one and only the Johnsons? Hey, yeah. Well, that now concludes our pre-program. We'll have a brief intermission, and then we will get started with the State of the Nation. Yoko Ki, and appreciate everyone coming out today. God bless.
Well, halito, Choctaw Nation. Chukma. Well, good morning. I'm Assistant Chief Jack Austin Jr., and it is indeed an honor to be here and welcome you to this year's State of the Nation address. We hope you and all of your families have certainly enjoyed this year's festival. To open this morning, I've asked Miss Jennifer Woods if she would open us with a word of prayer. Jennifer?
Halito, let us pray. Our Father, we come to you, Lord, with just such gratitude in our hearts and love. We thank you so much, Father, for being with us over these Labor Day weekend, all these days of the heat and the fellowship, the good music, Father. We just thank you, and we thank you for having a chief and an assistant chief that have the love of Jesus in them, Father. We just thank you for that so much, Lord, and for our tribal council that cares for all the people, all the hundreds of people that you see out here today, Father, that we are one family, that we belong to you of one accord. We thank you for your blessings upon the growth and the great Choctaw Nation, Father, as you continue to bless us, Lord, as we continue to take care of your business and serve our fellow tribal members, our communities, Father, and that we just show that love and that light every day, Father. We give you the honor and the glory. In Jesus' blessed name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Jennifer. Well, at this time, if you're able, I'd like to ask that you please stand for the posting of our colors by our Choctaw Nation Color Guard, followed by the national anthem, which will be sung by Miss Chantel Stanifer. Wonderful job. All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great privilege and honor to get to introduce these. Competed in our Princess Pageant this past Thursday night and won an opportunity to represent the Choctaw Nation this next year. They'll be performing the Lord's Prayer for all of you here shortly. I believe our employee, Mr. Brad Joe, will be singing. To introduce them from District 7, our Little Miss Choctaw Nation, Miss Mia Reich. Beller. And from District 7, Miss Choctaw Warren Crosby.
Pinky, na na isha nikang yaknipan yomahi him makni pitak ish pitak ahika pinka shofi ahika kilinka shofi anok palika ish pilawilina nanok polo pitako fichi chema yat Yakoki. Thank you.
Let's give them a great big round of applause. They did a wonderful job for their first time on the stage. We certainly appreciate them, and I know they're going to do a great job this year. Well, did everybody have a great time at Labor Day this weekend? It was a great weekend. You know, there's always an excitement and anticipation around this time of year. It's always what will Labor Day weekend will hold, and you know, this year was no different. It certainly wasn't a disappointment. We had a lot of great entertainment. We had exciting sporting events, and we had plenty of activities for our families and friends to take part in. And you know, for me, that's what Labor Day is really about, is about our families and friends getting to come out and have an opportunity to spend that quality time with one another. So I hope all of you and your friends and your family did enjoy this weekend. But speaking of family, I have some family members here with me today that I'd like to recognize, beginning with my wife of 28 years, Miss Felicia Austin. Our youngest son, sitting next to her really close, Mr. Sam. Our oldest son, Clark, and his wife, Tara. My son-in-law and our daughter, Ethan and Malacha, and their two boys, our grandson, Dawson and Drake. Appreciate them being here with us today. But there's also another special group of people I want to recognize that without their Choctaw spirit and servant's heart, this weekend wouldn't be possible. They put in a lot of long hours and hard work to make sure this weekend is a success. And I'm speaking about our Choctaw Nation employees. And if you would, please give them a big round of applause. But right now, it's my great honor and privilege to introduce this next person. And when I think of living out the Choctaw spirit for our people and our tribe, he lives it out through his actions and his servant's heart for our Choctaw people. He continues to lead us on a path of success by leading with a purpose. And it's an honor to call him my friend and my chief. Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Gary Batton.
Yakoki. Thank you very much for that. And Halito. Oh, that is music to my ears. It's always great to come up here and spend the Labor Day Festival. And I know everybody have like an hour-long speech today to give to everybody. No, it is the requirement to give the state of the nation. This is by, but I am going to try to do my best to shorten the Choctaw a snapshot. And of course, we always will be putting things on the internet so that you're able to see that. But as Jack mentioned, you know, I hope everybody truly did enjoy the celebration of faith, family, and culture this weekend. That's who we are as the Choctaw people, and that's the reason why we love coming together and fellowship and having a great time, isn't it? And I am so fortunate, you know, being we were 8, but it's my wife, Angie. And next to her, you know, last year I made the prediction that we would have an addition to the family. And so now we have my son David and our daughter Taylor Batton that is now married, got married June 30th of this year. And the shorty of the family is our 16-year-old grandson. This is Jeffrey Bell. And then we got little Miss Priss, as always, the baby of the family. That's Miss Kaylin Renee. If y'all would give her a big round of applause. And I look down here and I see my sister and Abby and some of them. And we lost our mother this year in May, but it's great to have you here. Thank you, Brenda. Let's give them a big round of applause. You know, and I know I look to this side and I look over here and I look at our assistant. You know, both of our families are growing me, all those types of things, and he's doing a wonderful job leading our services, leading our businesses. There's no greater character of a person than Mr. Jack Austin Jr. If y'all would, let's give a big round of applause for him. You know, and I keep saying, you know, one thing about the Choctaw Nation, you know, we say the Choctaw spirit. Myself, the assistant chief in this council, we are of one spirit, and that's to serve God, and that's to serve our people. Now, we might have various variations of how to get there, but I can tell you at the end of the day, we're going to come together for the betterment of our people, and our council is doing a wonderful job in representing you, our people. And if you would, let's give our council a big round of applause. You know, and just over the last 3 or 4 years that we continue to grow and our tribal government, and that's the judicial branch. And now we have 9 judges throughout, and so it's an honor to have them named as judges and for them to serve and protect and give our people a fair chance. And that's our judges over here. And if you would, let's give them a big round of applause. And Jack mentioned them, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention them as well, and that's our staff. I always say there's none better than our staff at Choctaw Nation. They truly have that heart. Let's give them a big round of applause for all that they do. So as always, I like to give a PowerPoint so that you can follow me along. And like I said, I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible. I've got a lot of data and things, but I always like to start off with our vision statement. But before I do, I always like to say my message this year is of continued growth. That's what we all want to see. We want to see the Choctaw Nation continue to grow, not as a government, but for our people and for our grandkids, and that's what it's about. Matter of fact, the reason why I like starting out with a vision is because in Proverbs 29:18, it says, where there is no vision, the people perish. And our vision is living out the Choctaw spirit of faith, family, and culture, and that's what we try to do each and every day when we go to work. Our mission statement is, to the Choctaw proud, I hope that you are a proud Choctaw. Ours is the sovereign nation. I hope everybody remembers we are a nation. We are the Choctaw Nation. You know, sure, we have the state of Oklahoma. Yes. I know a lot of times people see us as just a group of people that come together, but we are a nation that signed an agreement with the federal government. We are that sovereign nation, offering opportunities for prosperity and growth. Isn't that what we always want to do for our kids and for our grandkids? We want to offer them those opportunities so that they can succeed in life. And that's what our mission is. And to serve our families, we always say faith, family, and culture. Service to our families. The first thing this last year, I'm so proud. I talk about this council all the time. They wanted more home ownership. We need more home ownership within the Choctaw Nation. Between last year and this year alone, last year we served 158 tribal members with home ownership. This year we provided 240 homes to our tribal members for a 52% increase in home ownership to our tribal members. That's through what we call our LEAP program, our LEAST program. We still have some of those homes to continue to build throughout the rest of the Choctaw Nation as we move forward. I think there's a problem potentially. Sounds serious. We'll pray for them. Also, in regards to one of the things the council and assistant chief and us worked together was we always had trouble getting home repairs done in a timely and quickly manner. This last year, we served 154 tribal members. We started the voucher program. I'll give Bob Yandell and the Housing Authority and all that group kudos for making the establishment of the voucher program. This year, we provided services to 548 homes as opposed to 154 last year for a 254% growth in services and home repairs. And of course, one of the things that we always education, one of the areas that we really have excelled in is in our career development program. Last year, we provided services to about 8,107. This year, 8,840 received assistance for a 9% growth to services to our tribal members. But you know, the thing that's most important about that is we keep saying offering opportunities for prosperity and growth. Every one of them that graduated seen an annual income to their family of $16,060. And that is awesome to see them grow up and do what they want to do for their families. And somebody I'd like to recognize, I don't know exactly where they're sitting right now, but Thomas Williston and I were very fortunate. We had 17 graduates from the Comiskey Technology Center in the LPN. Out of those, 11 of those were Choctaw. And Thomas and I went and met with them, and to hear their stories, one of them over President's Day, they had their baby on Sunday, stayed there at the hospital on Monday, went to school on Tuesday. All of them had their trials and tribulations, but they succeeded. They showed that Choctaw spirit, that resiliency and strength, and they passed, and they got their LPN, and I'm so proud of them. And where's our LPN graduates? Right over here. I'm so proud of you for what you're doing. Let's give them a big round of applause. The reason why I like highlighting them is because with all the trials and tribulations, they made it, and it's an example of what all of our Choctaw people can do in life. And so thank you again for epitomizing the Choctaw spirit. Let's give them one more round of applause. One of the highlights throughout the year is also when we go to GED graduation. You know, sometimes people struggle when they're going through high school and things, but this year, typically we have about 64 graduate. This year we had 86 graduates, and that's 3% more than last year. But again, I'm so proud of them for sticking through it, and let's give them a big round of applause as well. Another area that we like to provide services to our families in regards is to health care. As most of you all know, that we built a huge clinic down in Durant, as the council calls the Emerald City. Is that correct? Because they say Durant gets everything, right? But the reason why we invested is there's a lot of tribal members there, but whenever we can gain access to care, then you can provide more care there. It frees up access to care to other clinics and so on. This, between last year, we provided 107,000 outpatient visits. This year, we provided 364 outpatient visits for a 239% growth rate for access to care for our tribal members. And our clinic was the first one in the United States to have an outpatient surgery available to it. So it was able to provide surgeries there, which again freed up surgeries in Tallahassee. Last year we provided 2,688 surgeries. This year we provided 3,514 for 826 more tribal members getting into to have the surgery that they desperately need. That's very important. Another area, I don't know if you remember 2 or 3 years ago, again, the council and us talked about we need to help our people that's had a struggle in life, that's been incarcerated. We started the reintegration program. And I want to give you just a few statistics about the reintegration program. We call it the Second Chance program. This past year, we assisted a total of 313 ex-offender tribal members. All the tribal members who completed the program has not been charged with a new crime or been incarcerated since that time. And that's awesome to see them succeed. They provided 1,852 nights of stay in transitional housing, provided 88 tribal members with emergency food and personal hygiene items, provided emergency clothing for 162, and assisted 99 ex-offended tribal members in finding jobs. Let's give them another big round of applause for doing that. And just to highlight some other services, because like I said, I'm going to try to shorten it and keep it sweet, but just higher education, for example, we always focused on that. 9,693 students went through higher education. 4,600 high school students received high school student services. 51,481 received emergency services, or LIHEAP, which is for propane, electricity. 7,081 tribal members received holiday food vouchers. 430 families received storm shelters for safety. 496 received appliances and air conditioners. And that's just to highlight some of the programs within the Choctaw Nation. Always say faith, family, and culture. And so one of the areas that I want to focus on is culture. And as soon as I think of culture, I always think of our elders, those who went before us, those who set the path that gives us and has made us the great Choctaw Nation that we are today. And I'm glad to see them when we're out and about. They have their weekly lunches. We have a senior day for them. We have fall festivals so they learn about programs, a healthy aging clinic. We started the Farmers Market Senior Nutrition Program. We have started independent elderly housing for them, the EDH program, eyeglasses, denture, hearing aid program. And boy, believe it or not, they started senior wellness where they have chair volleyball and silver sneakers and programs like that. How many of you seen our seniors play chair volleyball? Gets pretty serious. So one of the things the council and us are going to try to work on, because our seniors ask us, is to see if we can host a senior volleyball tournament up here during Labor Day next year. If we can find the space. So it's not a promise at this point in time. We promise we'll look into it, and hopefully we can find a spot. But it is great to see them stand active, keeping them young and out and available for our youth and to teach and learn. And another important area of our culture is our Tushkas, our warriors. And when I think of this year, we've worked with the state legislators so that we can highlight our code talkers in naming the bridges after our code talkers. We've done one down in Wright City, and also, believe it or not, this is the 100th year of our code talkers. And some of the family, I don't know if you're here, but let's give our code talker families a big round of applause for keeping this story alive. And I don't know if Nuchi Neshoba is here. She's president of our Code Talkers Association, but thank them so much for keeping this story alive. And also, they're looking at wanting to do things in the future as well. And at this time, I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize our military men and women. I keep saying our color guard here, when they bring in that flag, don't they make us proud? And let's just recognize our military men and women for what serving God and country. Thank you for your service. And this person that I'd like to recognize is, I don't know if she realizes the impact that she has on people, because she lives out the Choctaw spirit of faith, family, and culture just on a daily basis. She's one of our language instructors, And I remember going to class one time, and she started telling about her going to Wheelock. And she started weeping a little bit. They cut her hair back then. She got in trouble for speaking Choctaw, but she said she was going to speak Choctaw. And then she broke out into Choctaw hymn and just sung it so well from the heart. And like I said, she epitomizes Choctaw Nation. She epitomizes that Choctaw spirit. And that's Miss Eleanor Caldwell right here in the front. And I'm so proud of her. Eleanor, would you mind standing? Let's give her a huge round of applause. Yakoki, Eleanor. Yakoki. You know, I always say it's interesting to for us, most of the time that our original language for Eleanor is Choctaw. So when I'm talking up here, she's hearing in Choctaw. For us, we hear English, then we interpret into Choctaw, right? But Eleanor, thank you so much for all that you do for us. God bless you. In sustainability, I always think about we need to make sure and keep this tribe moving forward for our kids and for our grandkids. And when I think about sustainability, the most important part is our people, our tribal members, and all of our family that works for the Choctaw Nation. Since 2014, we had about 6,500 employees. Today, we have 10,300 employees for a total of 3,783 new jobs since 2014 for a 58% increase in growth of opportunities for our tribal members. Also think about our council, and let's always talk about, again, that opportunities for prosperity and growth. Anybody that wants a job, we have a job for you. So we started Job for the Day. In fiscal year 2016, we were only able to help about 59 people. Fiscal year 2017, we helped about 170 people. This year so far, we've helped 196 people get into permanent full-time employment, and that's what we want to do for our tribal members. We started other employment opportunities, though. We also like to help those that want to start their own businesses through small business development. We helped create 240 new jobs through small business development, 65 training workshops for more than 600 tribal members attending. We also have the Choctaw Development Fund, where we help out our communities and help our small business owners with $5,000 for forgivable loans. 37 Choctaws received that for a creation of 50 new jobs within the 10.5 counties through those other employment opportunities. Also, when we think about sustainability for the future, we have to have continued leadership. And so it's important that we continue to train, mentor, and coach our employees, our tribal members across the nation. For example, in Choctaw U, and last year we had 277 attend in our Choctaw U, where we partnered with President Burge, which is a tribal member for Southeastern Oklahoma State University. This year, we had 451 attend Choctaw U for a total of 66% growth for sustainability in leadership for our tribal nation. Also, I say the future looks bright because I get to here just the other day, I was at OSU. And even though I'm a big OU fan, I still went to OSU. But went to OSU and to meet with them, and then also to see our interns. We had, this is our 4th year of our internship programs for people that's going into accounting, finance, children and family services, health, construction, business, reintegration, all of those. We had 49 of them that went there, and I can tell you they are living out. Not only are they learning leadership skills, but they're learning the Choctaw spirit, learning our culture and our history. And we have some of our participants of the internship program. If you would, let's stand and let's give them a big round of applause for participating in that. Thank you very much. And one of the things that myself, Assistant Chief, and this council truly believe in is this is your Choctaw Nation. It is your government. Without you, there's no reason for us to even be up here. And so we want to make sure that we can make it as open and transparent and as fair as possible. One of the things the council and us passed was an election ordinance this year so that we can have a good and fair and election process. We also passed a code of ethics. You need to require us and hold us accountable to serve you in a good and just manner. So we established a code of ethics where 2 will be appointed by the chief, 2 will be appointed by the council, and there'll be 1 appointed from the judicial branch if there's any violation of ethics that should come up and be reported. Also, one of the things that we've done, I mentioned last year, is we want to make sure that all of our employees are protected. Our tribal members' assets are protected. If you see any violations or anything that you see throughout the nation, we want it reported. We want to know if there's anything wrong that's going on so that we can protect your dollars. And here's the ways you can do it anonymously and confidentially. It's through cno.ethicspoint.com. You can call 866-835-5266. If you have anything like that comes about for on the drug or on the job drug or alcohol abuse, harassment, discrimination. And again, our goal is, I don't want to be negative here. My thing is just to prove to you, we want to live out that Choctaw spirit and show you that we want an open and fair government. One of the things in protection of our tribe, as I mentioned earlier, is our judicial branch. And I'm so thankful that it's well under construction. We're going to have our judicial building that will be open this coming year so that, again, that solidifies that we are a sovereign nation, that we are standalone. We want to let anybody know that we're going to protect our children. Anybody who wants to do business with the Choctaw Nation, they can get a fair and just trial within the Choctaw Nation. We're looking forward to opening that. Well, the next thing I want to talk about is just everybody asks, so how do we fund all of these things? So where does the money come from? Just want to show you a quick snapshot again. 58% of the dollars comes from our own businesses, from gaming. I don't know if you're aware, we're in about 13 different industries, about 69 different businesses. 24% comes from federal and state grants. 12% comes from Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance. And of course, most of you always ask, I highlighted some of the services, but where does this money always go to? 67% went to services, 21% went to capital projects, which is things like the new headquarters and so on. 12% goes into our sustainability fund, which helps us put money back for the future of the Choctaw Nation. And just to let you know, an indicator of our tribe's sustainability, we contract with Oklahoma City University in 2016 to see what kind of economic impact that we have on the state of Oklahoma. And I'm proud to tell you that we had $1.8 billion impact on the state of Oklahoma. And I hope that makes you proud as a tribal member. And just to highlight some of the things that we did last year is, we did an expansion to our resort down in Grant. We built the new Choctaw Nation headquarters. We built a new community center in Broken Bow, Head Start in Wright City. We built 10 LEAP homes in Atoka, Cameron, Colgate, Heavener, Hugo. We built wellness centers in Poto and Durant. And again, that's just to highlight some of them. Some of the future projects, things that we're wanting to do this coming year, we want to make sure they say faith, love, and hope. We want to give you hope that there's a brighter future for tomorrow. One of the things that we're going to be focusing on is our Choctaw ammunition rimfire. We broke ground on this. We're going to be making our own Choctaw bullet. Ready for that? Another area that you may have read about is that we started the unmanned aerial system, the drones. We are the only tribe in the whole United States that's going to be helped developing rules and regulations about how drones can be implemented in today's society. And believe it or not, I never thought that I would see this happen, but we had a drone that delivered corn, dropped it into a hog pen that was able to catch wild hogs. And so that's a way to reduce a $2 billion impact of hogs that's doing damage to all of, not just our property, but a property across the whole state of Oklahoma. And so it's great that we're going to be able to lead that path. Also, we're going to be building the Child Development Center in Poto, a country market in Boswell, Cultural Center in Durant, daycare in Tallahena, facility maintenance building in McAllister, food distribution in Poto, our judicial centers I mentioned. We're doing a remodel to Idabel Shopping Center, a refill center expansion in Poto, travel plaza in Tallahena, wellness center expansion at Atoka, Idabel, independent living centers for our elders in Antlers, Atoka, Broken Bow, 10 LEAP homes still left to go in Antlers, Broken Bow, Durant, Idabel, Krebs, Stigler, Wilburton. We're going to be building 10 affordable rental homes in all 12 districts for a total of 120 rental homes as well. Also, one of the things we're working on is through technology is what we call Chutta Achafa, which is our goal is that rather than you having to go to various places, that you have one application that you apply within the Choctaw Nation, and that's our goal to get that accomplished next year. And then also one of the things is we're going to be expanding our human resources area so that we can continue to recruit, train, and retain our Choctaw people. And then lastly, we're going to be spending some of our dollars in communication. Our goal is always to keep you informed, up to date with the latest, greatest that's going on within the Choctaw Nation. Of course, I'd like to encourage everybody to just go to ChoctawNation.com for most of our services, or also call 1-800-522-6170. Also, I don't know if you're aware, but we sent out the new booklets that has all of the programs for people that live within the Choctaw Nation and people that live outside of the Choctaw Nation, what services are available to you. Also, there's a new text service that you can subscribe to. It's text Halito 77453, and it will alert you. If any of you were signed on to that, it showed you some of the things that was going on at Tuskahoma this weekend. You should have gotten your text alert. And just in closing, I always want to say this. It's, you know, up there it says, together we're more. And I truly believe that. The council, myself, Assistant Chief, but we can't do it unless it's our tribal members, it's our family, our communities, all of us pulling together. And I just want to say it's an honor to serve as your chief. Thank you, Yakoki, for allowing me to do that. And I'll say, Chapisa la Chiki. Thank you, and God bless each and every one of you. Have a safe journey home.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now it's my privilege to introduce this next person, and he's certainly no stranger to servant leadership for the Choctaw people. He's been serving the Choctaw people for a total of 32 years in servant leadership, and he's currently serving as a councilman for District 3 and as a speaker of our tribal council. Would you please welcome Councilman Kenny Bryant.
You know, I'd like to say today it's a great honor to serve these people, and they've done a good job for you people. And I'd like to introduce somebody first. You know, everybody talking about their wife, but this is my wife. We've been married 46 years. You know, that's a long time. We did put up with one woman. Yeah, you can laugh. All right. And Charles, boy sitting there beside you, Gerald, we're glad to see you from Oklahoma City. But I like to say I've been sick for the last few months and spent my time down at MD Anderson. And let me say this. I've got a son here. Aaron, where you at? No? Wave your hand one more time, Aaron. I don't talk about this much, but I'm going to say this. He is a good boy. This is a good woman. And let me say this. They took care of me while I was down at MD Anderson. They took care of me. I weighed 158 pounds. Can you tell it today? No, because I beat it. They beat it. And the problem that I beat through God. There ain't but one man can do that. His name's Jehovah. And if you don't know who Jehovah is, that's God. Can you say amen? And let me say this. It's not been an easy road for me to hold, because there's two great people in my life that has held a role while I was gone, and they took my job, and they took it, and they done it well. And let me say this. Before we do this, before I introduce this next bunch, but I'd like to say this about a little boy. His name is Noah. He didn't get no recognition. Nobody said nothing. He won United States of America, the junior livestock contest. He won it in Ohio. Iowa, sorry. In Iowa. That is the hog capital of the world. And he won it. And he wanted up there. Aaron, I want you to know he wanted it up there. We was on our way to the motel. I don't say this very often. We was on our way to the motel, and I believe his name is Cox. He called us, and he said, Noah won that award. And I want to say this today. We need to put our hands together because, you know, if it wasn't for the Choctaw, you would be in trouble. I'm going to say it one more time. If we didn't have the Choctaw, we'd be in trouble. The Shukanipi. All right, this time I want to introduce these people. So, Aaron, I want to tell you something. I haven't forgot you. I haven't forgot Sarah, what y'all done for me. Because he carried me. Listen to me. He carried me from one room to the other and put me in the car where I could live and be here with y'all today. So if you got cancer, you can beat it. I beat it. At this time, let me introduce some of these guys. They're good guys. But, you know, when I sat there last night and me and Perry and him was talking, and I got to thinking about, you know, there's a few of us old heads still on the council. I said old heads. And Gary, you'll have to forgive me, but before we get started, you know, there's been some great things that's happened in Choctaw Nation. And I like to say, Tony, where you at? Tony Ward from District 1, would you stand? Everybody, Tony. I call him Thomas one of these times. And sitting behind him is Anthony Dillard. And this guy sitting close to him, you have to watch him. He'll shake your hand and give you a light up. Thomas Wilson. And the next guy is James. I won't bear you dry. We're glad to have him. Drop over here and we'll get Mr. Bob Pate. It's all right. And the next guy to us is Mr. Jack Austin. I'm going to skip the next guy, so I'll get Perry Thompson, Mr. Perry Thompson. And the next guy is James Frazier. I started to call her Charlotte, but I'm not. But Jennifer Wood, would you please stand? And these next two guys are the guys that carried me when I was in the hospital. And now I've got my love goes to them because they did a great job for you people. That's Delton Cox. Delton, would you please come? And the other guy is Ron Perry. They've done a great job. Honestly, they've done a great job. And they work for us. But let me say something. I'd like to remind y'all, and this may be kind of funny, but there's a guy, he's done going on to be where he wanted to be, and that's Hollis Roberts. He started this for you, and you've got it today, what Chief Powell and Gary Batton is taking and going with it. And let me say this today. It's my honor to tell you that when you come through the first gate up there, a lot of you don't know the history of Choctaw Nation. When you come to that first gate, there used to be a sheep place where they used to keep the sheep. Then this little lady that's sitting beside me, her last name used to be Ridenour. There used to be a place, there used to be another house, and the Noels lived in one house. They moved out, and the Ridenours moved into that house. There was Southie, well, she'll keep me straight. Amen. Y'all don't have one of them, do you? But she kept that place up there. They was out here for a long time. And Charles, I want to say this. She's been good to me. She's been to my kids. My boy's been good to me, and everybody's been good to me. But let me say something else before I forget. And I want to, Bob Payne, raise your hand. Bob, raise your hand. Bob, James Frazier. James. Let me kind of look around here for sure. Yeah. And Perry Thompson and James, I'm going to tell you what, the reason that you ride those rides free is because one day Bob paid. Bob, would you raise your hand again? We're going to wear him out. They made it possible. They called Mike Bailey one day and said, hey, 30 tickets is not enough. All you kids that ride the rides, you ride them because of these men right here that they raised their hands and said, yes, we will open it up to the public, and any white kid, any Choctaw, Lusai, or whatever, they can ride the rides. They was on the council. They were on the council at that time when this all happened, and I think they done a great job, and when we have our Choctaw Festival, we have a great time. But let me say this, we have some great people. So, Chief, we have a great chief. And let me say this, I appreciate God and what he's done for me. And Gerald, I want to tell you what I think. I appreciate you and Charles. These boys are from Oklahoma City. Raise your hands. They're from Oklahoma City. Get myself together here, but I'm going to sit down. Let me tell you what. I don't care what you go through, you can't buy health. You can have all the money, you can have all the wealth, all there is in the world to have, but you cannot buy health. Am I standing here right today? So I'm thankful that I've conquered cancer. Now I've got another little problem going on, but God will take care of it. Amen?
Let's give our tribal council another big round of applause. We appreciate them. Well, I know Chief introduced these folks earlier or recognized them as a group, but I want to introduce them individually, and that is all of our judges. I'm going to begin with our Constitutional Court tribal judge, our Chief Justice, David Burridge. If you would give him a big round of applause. We also have Judge Mitchell Mullins and Judge Fred Bob. From our appellate court, we have Chief Appellate Judge Pat Phelps, Warren Gocher, and Bob Rabin. From our Tribal District Court, we have Chief Justice Judge Richard Branham. We also have Special District Judge Rebecca Cryer. And our District Judge Mark Morrison. Appreciate all of them being here. Well, right now, we have come to the end of our program this morning, and Chief, if I can ask you to step over to the right, we're going to ask Chief to recognize our eldest tribal members in attendance with today, and then we'll be on to our door prize drawing, which I know everybody's excited about. I would like to begin with our ladies first, of course, and just by a show of hands, is there any of our Choctaw tribal member ladies out there that is 95 or above? I see one arm over to my right. Is there anybody to my left? Right there. 95 or above? Is that the only person I see? 97? 95. Do we have any other Choctaw ladies older than the age of 95? Chief, I believe we have a winner then. Let's give her a big round of applause. Now on to our Choctaw men. Do we have any Choctaw men that are 95 or older? Chief said all the ladies killed them off. I wasn't going to repeat that, but what about 90 and above? Right here? Is that John A. Hoosier I see? 94? I started at the wrong age. 95? 92? 94? We have a bidding war going on. The best kind. So 94, is any Choctaw men older than the age of 94? I believe Mr. Hoosier has it, Chief. Let's give both of them men a big round of applause. If I could ask our princesses to come back up to help us with our door prize drawing.
They're just out here having fun, getting dirty, and learning about good food, how you make good food, how you plant seeds, and
learning a child from an environment where they didn't know that and bringing them into their, which is why we wanted to
use. You can't hide it away. You need to use it. And our talent is our ability to love any child like he or she is our own.
Her family.
Comfort to them.
The legend and move on, be a part of this.
And grow that